They were known as the biggest women in America. These two famous stars of the circus world amazed huge crowds and ate their way to fame and fortune. But behind the lights, they had a dark and deadly race to be the best. This is their story. Hannah Battersby was born as Hannah Perkins around 1836. Some say she was from Vermont, and others say Maine. Hannah was a big child, but when she became a teenager, people really started to notice she was much larger than other girls her age. Stories say that by age 17, she weighed 500 pounds. That is a lot to believe, and it might have been a tall tale told by circus owners to get people to buy tickets. Hannah wasn't just heavy, she was also very tall, standing over 6 feet. But here is the strangest part. Her husband was the exact opposite. Hannah married John Battersby in the late 1850s. John was famous for being incredibly thin. He weighed less than 100 pounds. He was so skinny that he performed in shows as the human skeleton. By the 1860s, they performed together as a team. They were called the largest woman in America and the human skeleton. Even if the numbers on the posters were a bit exaggerated, they were a sight that no one could forget. The woman who would become Hannah's rival was Big Winnie Johnson. Her early life was very different. Winnie was born around 1839, but we don't know the exact date because she was born as an enslaved person on a farm in Kentucky. When she was young, she was a normal weight. She only started to get bigger as she got older. Winnie got married when she was only 15 to a man named Benjamin Johnson. We don't know exactly when she became free, but it likely happened after the American Civil War ended in 1865. She and Benjamin started a family and had 4 children. They lived a simple life, but when they ran out of money, Winnie made a big choice. She decided to join the circus to help her family. What started as a way to survive soon turned into a strange and famous career. Hannah Battersby had the longest career in the circus. In the 1860s, she worked for the famous showman P.T. Barnum. She and her husband even had a little book written about them. These books were sold at shows and told wild stories to make the performers seem more interesting. One book claimed that even as an 11-year-old, Hannah weighed 180 pounds. The posters said Hannah weighed over 700 pounds. While she was definitely very large, the circus owners usually made the numbers higher just to sound more exciting. By the 1880s, Hannah was making $200 a week, which was a huge amount of money back then. But then, Big Winnie Johnson arrived. Winnie started performing in 1882, after her husband died. She needed money for her kids, and within a year, she was being called the new fattest woman in America. This started a giant rivalry between her and Hannah. In the mid-1880s, the race to be the largest woman was on. Other performers joined in too, each claiming to be 700 or 800 pounds. It was like a 19th century version of professional wrestling. Lots of drama and big claims that might not have been 100% true. The rivalry was good for business. Hannah was making what would be $6,000 a week today. If Hannah came to town in January, people would go see her. If Winnie came to town in March, people would go again just to see who was bigger. They would look at photos and posters to compare the two. Even though they were rivals, the competition made both women very rich. In 1 week, Winnie made $250, which is like $8,000 today. But as they both tried to get bigger and bigger to win, their health started to fail. The rivalry didn't last very long. Hannah's husband, the human skeleton, started to gain weight after an accident, so he couldn't do his act anymore. At the same time, Hannah started losing weight because she was getting sick. Both women were in their 40s or 50s, and being that heavy was very hard on their bodies. In 1888, Winnie became very ill while she was in Baltimore for a show. She died in September. The doctor said her heart just couldn't keep up. Her funeral was a giant event. Her coffin was so big it looked like a shipping crate. It took 20 men to carry her, and they even had to use a small crane to lower her into the ground. She was only 49. Hannah died just a few months later, in April 1889, at the age of 52. The newspapers wrote stories about both of them all across the country. As Winnie and Hannah passed away, the age of the freak show began to end. Doctors started to understand that being very large or having a different body was often a medical condition, not a show. People also started going to the movies instead of the circus. However, the idea of watching people with unusual weights never really went away. It just changed from the circus tent to the movie screen and TV. Today, there are still movies and shows about very large people. The setting changed, but the curiosity stayed the same. Thank you for watching the story of the largest women in America, Big Winnie and Hannah. I hope you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more stories like this. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications on. I'll see you in the next Lost Whispers. Thanks.